Hi and welcome back to the channel. Lots more progress this week to report on the building of the Toby the Tram Engine, which I'm building from a kit that's actually described as being for Shelley the Tram Engine from IP Engineering. But yeah, I'm going to build it as Toby. I'm sure I will build some kind of face for it. As I say, it's a bit strange having spent ages taking the faces off the Bachmann models to give me Dolgok and Talilin instead of Scale and Rheneas. I'm actually going to put a face on this one, but I will make sure it's removable, so I can also run it as just a tram if I want to. But anyway, here we have progress so far on the wooden body parts. So these are the two end panels. So this is what one end will look like. Obviously, you'll have the chassis down here with the cowcatcher and the coupling block, etc. This still needs window frames. So the windows usually are depicted as open, so the frames are folded back, so the frames sit on here. I haven't done those yet for a number of reasons. I haven't dealt with any of the window frames yet. We'll come back to that in a minute. But that's those. Then the inner walls. So essentially the tram engine. If you can't remember, I can't remember if I've got a picture here somewhere. There we go. There's the picture in the kit. So you can see there's the end wall, and then there's this inner wall. So the central bit essentially forms a box with two end walls and a gap in the middle where they usually see the drivers and things standing, because the engine would be in this middle bit. So these are the inner walls. If you remember, we talked about the fact that they originally had space for a on-off switch in both panels. Strangely, even though there's only one on-off switch, but I guess one might have been on-off, the other was direction. I can't remember. Anyway, I filled those in because, as I say, I'm going to do the electronics differently to suggested in the original kit. So you can see that the paneling is different. The panels run up and down on the inside and across on the outside, so the beading is different as well. And again, we'll come back to windows in a second. And then we have the side panels. Less beading on these so far than the other panels, but again, yeah, beading stuck on. It's been a fun and interesting. Well, not challenge to build these, but it's been interesting. So often when you buy kits, that comes with all, you cut out the parts from an etch, or you cut off the parts from a plastic sprue or whatever. Or in the laser cut kits like this, you just get laser cut parts that you put together. But what this came with is essentially lots of laser cut strips of wood of different thicknesses. So here's the spares that I've not used yet, 3 different thicknesses, but just lots of strips that you have to cut to length. So all this beading and edging. So you can see here we've got an edge piece that's glued onto the edge of the panel, and then all this thinner beading glued on the top. So this all has to be kind of cut to length from the strips, glued on, checked it's in the right position. So there's a lot of measuring going on to try and make sure all these things are properly vertical, horizontal, the right length, the right place, etc., which is all an interesting challenge. It's helped by the fact that the kit does include some nice plans of the sides, the end, and the inner panels, so you can actually measure nicely off these, as well as just kind of working it out from the pictures. I did manage to mess these up. I'll put some photos up here. I managed to mess up these end panels, so I started off by doing them the same as I did these. So I put on the 2 horizontal bars first, and I put a horizontal bar here all the way across, and realised it shouldn't have it all the way across. There should be a gap in these 2 vertical bars. But fortunately I was able to just run a razor saw kind of in the 2 places I wanted to cut it, and then slide a knife underneath, lift the middle section out, and then to put the 2 vertical pieces in, which had the nice effect of making sure these 2 were still perfectly matched up, because they were originally one piece. And as I say, fortunately I still have lots of strip left, and I don't have much more to add, so hopefully I didn't lose out too much. There's plenty of spares. So then the problem becomes, as I say, the last thing I haven't done is the window frames. So the window frames on the ends, as I say, are depicted as open usually. So what they show on the instructions is you can see we have window frames here, so they're obviously open, folded back against the end, so they're extra, and you can put the glazing in here to make it look like they're open. So that's all fine. I can fit those, that's not a problem. Then we have the inner panels, which don't show any window frames on the instructions, and that's fine. So they have just thin beading all the way around the edge of the window, and I can glaze that. Not a problem. I don't think I need to worry about that really. There's no reason to have extra window frames or anything. That's fine. It will look okay. The problem's going to be these side windows. Now, I spotted a bit of an issue here. Well, two things. One, the kit shows windows open, so it shows the window frames over the panels here, whereas the picture from the instructions of the finished model that we were looking at earlier, if I can find them, doesn't seem to show that. It just seems to show the beading around the windows and no window frames, which again, you know, probably makes more sense, because obviously what I want to do is glaze these probably with frosted plastic so you can't see inside. I don't want you to be able to see all the electronics and the fact that there's no detailing inside. So what I might do is just is essentially match these end panels with a thin piece of beading down here, because you may also spot another slight issue with this, and the same issue appears on the plans. So it shows the two windows open with the window frames neatly matching in the middle. There's one slight problem. This window's wider than this one by about ½ centimetre, and it is the case. There's also the fact on here. It's not necessarily very clear when you just look at them and hold them in your hands that this one's smaller. But if you take the two panels, obviously if you lay them over the top of each other, windows line up. If you turn one round and line them up, you'll see that they don't line up anymore on either direction. So, you know, because the windows aren't the same size. So if we have a ruler, which I've got here, you can see that this window is what, 23 millimeters wide, and this one's 20. But the gap is only 40. It's a bit difficult to see, I guess, on the ruler, but the gap's only 40. So I could do two window frames the same size as this one, but obviously it would look silly because that window frame wouldn't overlap that window. It wouldn't be big enough to actually close it. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do here. This window is actually small. I think rather than this one being too big, I think this one's too small, because if you look at these others, you'll see that, oh no, not that one. If you look at all the others are the 20 something. They're all wider, essentially. So this one and this one and this one they're all the same size. So it's simply this one that's wrong. Now, I'm in two minds. In theory, I could cut 3 millimeters off here, but to make it match and then not bother about the fact that because I'm not having opening windows, it wouldn't matter that there's not enough space for the window frames. But my concern is getting this very, very straight all the way down, especially now I've added some of the beading. I'd have to use a jeweler's saw to kind of piercing saw to cut this very straight, I think. And yeah, I'm worried I'd make a mess, and if I make a mess, then that's it. The piece is gone. I could remake it, but it's never going to look the same if I try and make it from something else. So I think I'm going to leave the windows slightly different sizes as wrong, but just add some thin beading as we have done round these for the edge of the window, and then frost them rather than making it look like they can be opened and leave it at that. I think that's probably the safer option, to be honest. As I say, I don't want them open, so I think that's the only solution really. And yeah, I think from a distance you'll never notice that they're the wrong size. So hopefully that's less of a problem. And as I say, I've not got any beading or anything to add here, so there's nothing. You know, if I added more beading down here, then it might make it more obvious that they were offset and not the right size, because this bit would be narrower than a bit down here. They wouldn't look symmetrical, but because these sides are symmetrical, that's fine. And I think just adding the beading either side won't make it too obvious. So that's my plan. So I've got the beading to do here, and then I've got the window frames over this bit to do. As I said, these are the right size windows, so I can do 2 frames that are the right size, and that will all work. And then that's the end. That's the sides done. And then it's just a case essentially of gluing them to the body and making a square. The rest of the actual model should come together really quickly. As I say, you know, there's a lot of cutting, filing, checking sizes to do all the beading, but once it's all done, the rest of the model should come together really quickly. So I'm hopeful that by the next video I'll have finished the beading, and I'll have also worked out the 3D printed parts I want for the chassis. If you remember in one of the earlier videos, I found that the overlays for the buffer beams, they're white metal, aren't the right size to fit the kit, and the holes aren't in the middle, so I'm going to remake those as 3D printed parts, like I've done on a previous 16mm scale model. So hopefully I'll get all that together before the next video. And as I say, don't forget, if you want to make sure you don't miss that, then subscribe, and so you get the notifications. Thanks for watching. Just a quick update to add that I did spend the time go back and did the rest of the beading. I thought it was just worth adding it onto the end of this video rather than doing it and showing you in the next video. So I've added beading up the inside of these window frames instead of doing the open windows on the sides. As I say, I'm going to glaze these anyway, so having them open wouldn't make any sense. There is the issue with the fact that when you on different sides of the locomotive as well, if you were looking all the way through, then they wouldn't line up. So I think this is definitely the best solution for the sides. For the end panels, I've gone and done the open window frames. So it did say you could just kind of cut the pieces square and kind of butt joint them square, but I went and did the kind of 45-degree mitre. They were done essentially by eye, so they're not necessarily the nicest of joints, but I think they will suffice. Certainly from a distance it looks fine. I tried to keep the windows as square as possible, so there are a few places where it's not perfect, but I can either add putty if it looks really horrible once it's painted, or hopefully they can just leave as they are. But that at least looks like the windows are open, and once this is all painted I'll then put some glazing actually in the window as well, so that it's obvious that there's a reflective glass surface. So yeah, so there we go. That's essentially now all the panels done. So there's two side panels all with the beading done, 2 outer end panels. This will need at some point holes for the lamps, but we'll get to that later when I get to doing the wiring. I'm probably going to build most of the model before I do the wiring, so I might even get as far as painting most of it before we do the wiring. We'll see. And then obviously the inner panels you'd already seen, so these haven't changed. So yeah, there we go. Hopefully next video I will start to actually assemble these into the body. Thanks again.